Behind the towering gates of Buckingham Palace, where crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across mahogany tables, Queen Elizabeth II wielded absolute authority that extended far beyond matters of state. In hushed corridors connecting royal kitchens to private dining rooms, her preferences shaped the entire culinary landscape of the monarchy. For 70 years, certain foods were banished from the royal table not by written decree, but by the silent, immovable force of the Queen's personal dislikes and practical concerns. Former royal chef Darren McGrady, who served Her Majesty for 15 years, revealed that these weren't merely personal preferences but unwritten laws governing palace kitchens with absolute authority. Each prohibition told stories of diplomacy, duty, and the peculiar demands of a life lived perpetually in service to the crown, where even intimate dining carried public consequences. Number 8. Garlic. The scent of roasted garlic never wafted through the state dining room during Queen Elizabeth's reign. In palace kitchens, this pungent bulb remained conspicuously absent from marble countertops, where royal meals were meticulously prepared. White porcelain serving dishes carried fragrances of thyme and rosemary, but never garlic's unmistakable aroma. Her Majesty's aversion stemmed from deeply practical royal considerations. As a monarch spending days in close conversation with diplomats and visiting dignitaries, the Queen couldn't risk garlic breath during afternoon audiences or evening receptions. This wasn't fastidiousness but diplomatic necessity wrapped in culinary preference. Royal chef Darren McGrady learned this fundamental rule: no garlic in any dish destined for the Queen's table. French dishes requiring garlic were reimagined with shallots and herbs, while Italian preparations excluded this cornerstone ingredient. Kitchen staff became masters of creating depth through alternative aromatics. This prohibition revealed the monarchy's relationship with food as never merely about taste, but duty and presentation. Every meal was essentially a working meal. The absence of garlic represented constant vigilance required of a sovereign, where intimate acts carried public consequences in a life lived perpetually serving the crown. Number 7. Shellfish. Oysters, succulent lobster tails, and delicate crab claws rarely graced the Queen's plate during official engagements. In the grand tradition of royal caution, shellfish occupied a precarious position, not entirely forbidden privately, but strictly avoided during state visits and foreign tours. Gleaming silver platters showcase Scottish salmon or Dover sole, never temperamental fruits of the sea. This wasn't superstition but calculated risk management honed over centuries. Queen Elizabeth II understood that a monarch's schedule permitted no room for unpredictable aftermath of contaminated shellfish. During overseas tours spanning Australia to Zambia, the prohibition became absolute, with advance teams informing hosts that shellfish shouldn't appear on Her Majesty's menus. The restriction carried particular poignancy given Britain's rich maritime heritage and exquisite quality of Scottish langoustines and Cornish oysters. These delicacies represented finest British coastal bounty, yet remained largely absent from the Queen's official dining experiences. When shellfish appeared at state banquets, it was served exclusively to guests. This cautious approach embodied fundamental tension of royal life, constant negotiation between personal desire and public duty. For a woman who preferred simplicity, the shellfish ban represented little personal sacrifice yet symbolized how monarchy demanded that basic human activities be filtered through responsibility, transforming meals into carefully orchestrated performance. Number 6. Rare meat. In palace kitchens, meat thermometers were sacred instruments of precision rather than mere suggestions. The Queen's preference for well-done meat was absolutino pink centers, no bloody juices pooling on fine china. Whether simple grilled lamb chops or elaborate Sunday roasts, meat reaching Her Majesty's plate had been cooked thoroughly, completely, without compromise. This preference traced back to personal taste and generational attitudes toward food safety. Born in 1926, Elizabeth grew up when proper cooking meant complete cooking, when foodborne illness loomed larger in collective consciousness. As Queen, she maintained these standards with quiet insistence, even requiring traditionally pink game birds cooked until uniformly done. Kitchen staff adapted techniques to honor this requirement while producing excellent results. Roasts were carefully monitored with temperatures checked repeatedly. Steaks emerged fully cooked yet tender through careful marinades and expert timing. This transformed potential culinary compromise into different excellenzione, prioritizing the Queen's comfort over fashionable cooking trends. This insistence revealed Elizabeth's practical nature and immunity to culinary pretension. In an age where celebrity chefs championed rare steaks, the Queen remained unmoved by trends. Her dining room wasn't culinary theatre but a place of sustenance and tradition, where meals nourished rather than impressed, representing deeper truth about sovereignty. Number 5. Spicy food. Palace kitchens maintained strictly regulated relationships with the spice cabinet. While herbs, flour, shied fresh mint with lamb, sage with pork, anything generating genuine heat remained firmly controlled. The Queen's palate, shaped by wartime austerity and traditional British cooking, found little appeal in burning sensations many cultures prized, preferring subtle flavour interplay that didn't assault senses. This preference created challenges during Commonwealth tours defining much of Elizabeth's reign. In India, Pakistan and regions where spicy food formed culinary cornerstones, palace advance teams worked with local chefs creating modified traditional dishes. Complex spice blends remained warming cumin, coriander, turmeric, but heat was carefully calibrated downward. Royal chef Darren Grady mastered creating flavorful dishes honoring international cuisines while respecting the Queen's preferences. His Indian-inspired preparations featured aromatic spice combinations without aggressive heat, building complexity through layered flavors rather than chilly intensity. The result was diplomatic cuisine respectful of tradition but adapted to royal tastes. The absence of spicy food reflected broader attitudes about restraint and moderation characterizing her life approach. In an era increasingly defined by extremes, Elizabeth embodied different values. Her meals, like her reign, favored balance over boldness, subtlety over sensation, with gentle seasoning mirroring her measured approach to monarchy, dignified, consistent, refusing passing enthusiasms. Number 4. Out-of-season produce. Perhaps the most telling prohibition was Queen Elizabeth's steadfast refusal to eat fruits and vegetables out of season. In an age of global supply chains, when January strawberries from Chile filled British supermarkets, the Queen's table remained resolutely tied to the British agricultural calendar. Strawberries appeared only during brief summer glory, asparagus exclusively during spring windows. This wasn't nostalgia, but deeply held belief in eating what the land provided when it naturally provided it. The Queen, whose life connected intimately to British countryside rhythms through Balmoral and Sandringham estates, understood food as expression of place and time. Having lived through wartime rationing when seasonal eating wasn't choice but necessity, she carried that experience into abundance. Palace kitchens operated according to this seasonal calendar with garden-like precision. Spring brought tender new potatoes, fresh peas, young lamb. Summer exploded with soft fruits grown in palace gardens. Autumn delivered game birds, wild mushrooms, orchard fruits, while winter meant root vegetables, stored apples, hearty preparations sustaining through cold months. Royal chef Darren McGrady recalled satisfaction of working within seasonal constraints, how they forced creativity while highlighting superior flavor of properly ripened, locally grown produce. June strawberries from palace gardens bore no resemblance to pale winter imports. The Queen's seasonality commitment wasn't deprivation but appreciation for food at its peak, recognizing patience produced pleasures convenience couldn't replicate. Number 3. Foie gras. The controversial delicacy of foie gras, prized in French haute cuisine, found no welcome in the Queen's dining rooms. This wasn't about taste but principle. Her Majesty, a lifelong animal lover who found solace in beloved corgis and genuine pleasure in horses, couldn't reconcile consuming a product created through force-feeding ducks and geese. Ethical concerns surrounding foie gras production troubled her deeply. This ban predated contemporary animal welfare movements by decades, reflecting Elizabeth's personal convictions rather than public pressure. In the 2000s, when Prince Charles formally ordered foie gras banned from royal residences due to animal welfare concerns, it merely formalized what had long been the Queen's personal practice. Palace chefs confirmed that even during French state banquets, alternative luxury items were substituted. Kitchen staff learned to navigate this restriction with creativity and tact. French-inspired menus were reimagined to showcase other haute cuisine aspects, with classic dishes traditionally incorporating foie gras adapted or replaced entirely. Scottish smoked salmon, beluga caviar, or delicate terrines from ethically sourced ingredients became alternatives, proving luxury could be redefined within ethical boundaries. This prohibition illuminated a lesser-known aspect of Elizabeth's character: genuine compassion for animals and willingness to let personal ethics guide decisions. In a role often requiring suppressing personal feelings for diplomatic necessity, the foie gras ban represented rare instances where the Queen's private convictions aligned with public position, creating meaningful space where values could be expressed. Number 2. Potatoes and pasta at dinner. As evening descended over Buckingham Palace and candles were lit in private dining rooms, certain foods became conspicuously absent from the Queen's table. Potatoes, whether mashed, roasted, or prepared in infinite variations, disappeared from dinner menus, along with pasta, rice, and other starchy staples. This wasn't about calories, but old-fashioned notions of proper dining separating lunch foods from dinner foods. The Queen's approach to evening meals reflected aristocratic traditions, viewing dinner as lighter, more refined affairs than lunch. During daytime, hearty roasted potatoes might accompany main courses, but as day progressed toward evening, menus transformed into something more delicate: fish or meat with vegetables, perhaps salads, but never heavier starches weighing down meals. This distinction created interesting challenges during state banquets, where diplomatic considerations sometimes conflicted with the Queen's preferences. When hosting dignitaries from nations where rice or pasta formed essential traditional dish components, compromises had to be negotiated. Solutions often involved serving these starches to guests while the Queen's plate featured additional vegetables or lighter alternatives. The starch prohibition at dinner embodied particularly British eating approaches, valuing restraint and tradition over abundance. In an era of increasingly casual dining habits, the Queen maintained boundaries her grandparents would have recognized, representing continuity with the past and resistance to formal distinction erosion characterizing modern life. Number 1. Tap water abroad. Picture a glittering banquet in some far-flung capital, tables stretching like runways of white linen and candlelight. Crystal glasses catch the glow, waiting to be filled, but one glass often placed behind the Queen's main setting holds something deceptively simple. Carefully selected, rigorously checked bottled water. Not local tap water, never local tap water. For Queen Elizabeth II, this rule was absolute survival strategy. Former royal staff described strict protocols. When travelling abroad, the monarch did not drink tap water. This wasn't snobbery, but survival. Stomach bugs for ordinary tourists are inconveniences, but for heads of state during diplomatic visits, they could cause cancellations, international embarrassment, even constitutional crises. Royal aides worked with local embassies ensuring safe water supplies, with bottles vetted through trusted channels. Behind the scenes, even ice cubes came under suspicion, potentially made from local tap water, and frequently avoided altogether. Simple acts like refilling glasses became tightly controlled operations, with staff maintaining vigilant monitoring of every drop the Queen consumed. There was no casual filling from hotel taps. Of rye beverage had to be accounted for and verified safe. The emotional truth behind this quiet ban reveals how fragile the human being behind the crown was allowed to be. For a queen whose life was bound to duty, the body itself became a national asset requiring protection. By refusing local tap water, the monarchy effectively wrapped the sovereign in transparent shields, demonstrating how something as basic as hydration became matters of state security. The foods Queen Elizabeth banned from her table tell stories transcending mere personal preference, revealing dining philosophy rooted in tradition, restraint, and deep connection to British landscape and seasons. Her culinary prohibitions created edible portraits of her reign, practical, principled, tied to tradition yet thoughtfully adapted to modern concerns about animal welfare and food safety. What strikes you most about the Queen's approach to food? Her seasonal commitment, animal welfare concerns, or practical avoidance of foods that might interfere with royal duties?